guys, it's your girl Evie. We're going to be talking about Law and Order SVU, postgraduate sociopath. So we're going to be covering how did it start, what happened, who did it, why, and how did it end. Well, we open with the scenes from Henry Messner from March 2013. You know the little boy that shot Amarro, right, and almost killed his sister? Yeah, that's the one. Well, he's been locked away till he was 18, and we see that he's now applying for parole. His parents want him to come home, and three doctors testify that he's fine, and they have granted him release to his parents' house, of course. And we can see that his sister Ruby, she's sitting there like, oh my God, like, no. But obviously she doesn't have any say in it. Well, how did it start? Well, the girl Libby, she's been sexually assaulted. She's been burned. And Amanda, we see, meanwhile, is in the park. She's there with her kids. She's calling for her daughter Jessie, who was walked off, wandered off a little bit. She doesn't answer at first. So Amanda gets this phone call that she has to go. So she's calling for Jessie, and like I said, she doesn't answer right away. So eventually she does come over there to her mom, and she's got this cute little stuffed animal with her. And Amanda says, hey, where did you get this? And she says, well, I got it from this man. And she's like, what man? And she's like, this guy, he gave it to me, but he's gone. And she's like, oh, and she's like, Mom, but he said that her name is Snowball. Where do we know that from? Henry? Right. Snowball was his dog that he drowned. Oh my God. So we go to the hospital where Libby is, and she says that she let him in her dorm because he said he was locked out, he couldn't get in, he needed to use the phone. So in the meantime, while she let him in, he assaulted her. He raped her. He threatened to burn her clothes off or cut them off because he had her by knife point. So she didn't say anything, but he ended up cutting off her clothes and raping her. And he was burning her with cigarettes. Then he asked her for her debit card, and she gave it to him in the code, and he took off. Well, we know that Libby has to go into surgery because she has a couple of internal injuries. And she says that she had a stuffed animal that he took too. And Amanda says, this stuffed animal? And she says, yeah. And she says, yeah, that's the one. And she goes, this one? And she says, yeah, that's the one. And she says, oh my God, he gave it to my daughter. She tells Liv. And so now they kind of figure out this is Henry, that he could possibly be released. But while they're talking to Libby's mom, they find out that she was a psychiatrist that treated Henry all those years ago when he first came in. And because she gave him personal information about her daughter at the time, that this is why they think that the daughter was raped. Oh my God, you can't tell anybody nothing these days. You know what I'm saying? You can't trust anybody. But anyway, meanwhile, we see that Kat and Finn talk to this homeless guy because they've traced Libby's debit card to him. Now, he has a debit card, but he tells them reluctantly, look, I only got $50. The other guy got the money. And they say, what other guy? And they say, look, he said if I went to the hardware store for him and went to the ATM and got this money out, he would give me $50. But they said, well, what did you go to the hardware store for? And he said, a blowtorch, some zip ties, some duct tape, etc. This guy is weird. Wow. That sounds like torture and kidnap to me. You know what I'm saying? So what happened? Liv and Amanda talk to Libby's mom, like I was telling you. And then we go to Henry's parents' house because now they want to, get him because they know he's out there. They bust the door open to the house. They see a huge mess and blood on the walls everywhere and a knife, and they find the family dead. He's killed his father, his stepmom, and his baby brother, who's 5 years old. Just 5 years old. Wow. But he didn't kill Ruby because Ruby's not there. I, breathed a collective sigh because I was like, oh, okay, this collective sigh that she's alive. Well, they talk to Ruby, and she tells them that his dad and Ruby, her dad and Henry were arguing. Well, why were they fighting? Because he told Henry, you need to get a job. You can't just be sitting around here playing video games all day. And so they head over to the juvenile facility where he was, and they talk to the previous doctor that he was seeing. And she said he was an exemplary patient. I don't know what happened. All these years he's been really, really good. So we go ahead and we released him. So she says, well, he did have one friend. So go talk to Connor. So they go talk to Connor. He tells them that he don't know anything. And they say, well, you know something. We're going to testify that you're, helping him to get away. And he says, well, my sister Cora and him have a thing, so why don't you go talk to her? So they head on over there, and they knock on the door, knock, knock, knock. Nobody answers. The music is blaring and everything. So they kick in that door. And they suspect maybe that she's in trouble, that he's done something to her. Well, there's no one in there. But she comes home while they're in there. And she says, hey, don't you need a warrant? And they said, no, it's exigent circumstances. We don't need a warrant. Where is he? And she's like, well, I don't know. So they take her in, and she says, look, he's a gentle soul. He would never hurt anybody. And they, I'm thinking, did y'all tell her what he did? Like, did you tell her that he just mass murdered his whole family? Oh my gosh. So anyway, she says he's a gentle soul, that he wants to go off the grid. Well, who did it? Well, we all know who did it. It was Henry. He's a sociopath. He should have never been let out. He shot Amarro. He tried to kill Ruby before. I mean, what else do they need? You know what I'm saying? Well, why? Why did he do it? Well, it said, he said basically he wants to tie up his past, get back at the people that hurt him in the first place, the people he thought had him locked up. Now, through Cora, they learned that Henry had pictures on his phone because he uploaded them to the cloud. Well, we see when they go through those pictures that not only is Libby on there, but also Jesse. So he had been stalking Amanda's daughter the whole time. Yeah. So they go to Ruby's friend's house, and they find a police officer that's locked in the trunk, tied and gagged, because now they want to trace down Ruby, because now Ruby is in trouble. So they go inside the house, and the house is empty so far, and Amanda is the first one in. And what they see is that no one is hurt, so they can see it first. But then they go further into the house, and they see that the mom is unconscious on the floor in the kitchen. She's got a pulse. She's alive. But Charlotte has been tied up into the bathroom in the shower. So they rescue her, and they both are really lucky that they're alive, because he took out his whole family. But he did take Ruby, his sister. So he said he wanted to go on a ride, so he took the car. But Amanda starts to think, I don't think he wants to go on a car ride. Maybe he wants to go on a joyride or something like that. Maybe an amusement park, perhaps. So they suspect that, and they go to the nearest amusement park. This guy is nuts, y'all. This is why people slip through the system. You know what I'm saying? Because they pretend to be okay. They do whatever they need to do in order to get out, and then they commit these crimes again, repeat offenders. In this particular case, this guy is a sociopath. So Amanda sees the fun house, and she's told to wait for backup by Finn, but she doesn't. She don't listen. So she goes in there alone into a house of mirrors, and a house of mirrors, is scary. To me, it's scary. Ain't no fun house. That's a scary house. You know what I'm saying? So she calls for Henry, and then she calls for him to talk, and then she calls out for Ruby. I hate fun houses. They ain't no fun. So Amanda hears them talking. Henry yells at his sister because he's like, you always been a tattletale. You always been a scaredy cat. And Ruby is so scared at this point because she knows her brother is crazy, So he recognizes Detective Rollins right away. Henry has a gun to Ruby's head. He asks if Jesse liked her gift, and he would have never hurt Jesse. He conversates with Amanda. At this time, Amanda's trying to get him to put the gun down so he can let Ruby go so they can talk. So she tells him it wasn't his fault that he got locked up. It was her fault. It wasn't his parents' fault. It wasn't Ruby's fault. She says it was her fault, which I thought, now she's in trouble. But shortly, we see that the door opens and Ruby's on her way out with Henry's gun, which has been unloaded. They do get Ruby, and he wants to talk to Rollins and not Ruby. So Rollins won't answer them on the walkie-talkie. She won't say what her status is. And Henry explains to Amanda the first time he felt like he knew who he was when he did not witness a death, but was part of something that had caused a death, being in the ocean. Amanda has to answer Liv because they want to know how she's doing. So she tells Henry, why don't I walk you out? That way you won't get killed, because they will shoot you. She tells Henry she's worried about him. She was worried about him then. She's worried about him now. She brings him out in handcuffs, and he's taken away. So how does it end? we see Henry is talking to a doctor, and the doctor says that Henry is competent enough to stand trial because they think, he's crazy. He can't stand trial. And this doctor is on the teeter-totter about that. He doesn't know if he's crazy or if he's competent, but he leans toward competent. So he tells that to Carisi. The doctor asks Liv if she's okay. He got her message that she wants to talk to him in regards to Stabler just showing up out of nowhere. And he says, I look forward to that conversation. And she says, I do too. So obviously she's scheduling an appointment with a therapist about this. So this is really bothering her. You know what I'm saying? So finally, we see Henry in court. Dr. Litchen says he is competent to stand trial. The judge says he can stand trial, and Henry's lawyer gets up and says, okay, well, we're going to change our plea to insanity. And she says, okay, save it for court. Save it for, the trial. And Henry tells the judge, you're being very rude to my lawyer. And he approaches the bench, and the lawyer's like, back up. But I guess it was a ploy because he doesn't get to the judge, but he does get to Carisi. And he stabs him in the ear. Like he's trying to kill him. And he's screaming out all the top of his lungs, I want my daddy. I want my daddy. Well, they agree that Henry is crazy. And Amanda goes to see him in lockup. He's tied down. He's medicated, which he should be because he is nuts. Amanda says, I know you can hear me. She says, earlier when I told you I was worried about you and I didn't want you to die. And he says nothing. And she says, well, I lied. If you threaten me or try to hurt me or my children or Carisi and you get up out of here, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you myself. And she's serious. So, she's whispering, but being real serious at this point. So she threatens to kill him. She leaves and we see Henry kind of smile a bit. Even though he's been drugged up, he's still got that crazy smile, He's still looking crazy, y'all. This boy needs to be locked up for the rest of his life. He was sick. They knew he was sick as a child, a sociopath, and she really meant what she said. Well, what do you guys think? Do you think the court could have done anything differently for this? Do you think the court could have found out and not let him out? Do you think the doctors could have done something else to diagnose him and find out that he was faking? What do you think our system could do to do a better job so we won't have repeat offenders like this? Because everybody has a right to parole if they're given that option when they're locked up. But how do we tell? How do we tell who's repentant? How do we tell who's changed? How do we tell if they're really serious about what they say? I don't know. Leave a comment below. If you want to see more content like this for Law and Order SVU, please go ahead and give me a like. Go ahead and make some comments. Go ahead and share. Go ahead and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you'll know when I'm coming back to you. And I just want to let you guys know, come on in and be a part of the SVU team. We need more people to comment. I need more people to come in and enjoy it as much as me. I know you guys do, or else you wouldn't be watching this right now. I really appreciate you. See you guys in my next video, which is the organized crime one. I'm going to do it. I'll meet you over there. Thank you guys. Bye.